Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Parks and Recreation Leisure Activities Committee special meeting. October the 18th, the year 2024, 12 o'clock p.m., Charlottetown Council Chambers. Order of business, I'll call the meeting to order. Item 2, declarations of conflicts of interest.
None.
Hearing none.
Okay. Item 3, approval of agenda.
Moved. Second it.
Councilman Tart, you okay?
I'm good. Yep, thank you.
Yep. Item 4, adoption of minutes.
Moved. Second it.
Second.
Okay. Item 5, business arising from the minutes.
Mr. Chair, yep, I just want to go to one item. It's on page 4 of your digital copy. E, request from CADC to create a link between Founders Hall and Peaks Wharf. Just want to find out through the chair to Christopher, have you met with CADC to discuss that proposal?
Through the chair to Mayor Brown, no, to my knowledge, there has not been a follow-up with CADC in regards to that yet.
So just second question, Mr. Chair, so do we have a timeline for that meeting just to start this process?
Again, I don't have that answer. I will take that back and give you an answer when I speak to the manager who was sort of taking the lead on this.
Thank you.
Is there any other, excuse me, is there any other questions arising from the minutes? No? Justin Matart?
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's get down to business. We have 2 items on the agenda. And the first item is the report and the awarding of the Victoria Park Shoreline Protection tender. Mr. Drummond?
Thank you, Chair. So as you can see in the report, we went out to tender for the shore protection at Victoria Park. This project has been approved and on the books since 2023. And we did not get this project started last year, so we moved forward to begin the process this year. The funding was approved through the Canada Community Building Fund, CCBF. And with the tender process, we received 5 bids, and we are recommending awarding this bid to J.E. Matheson Construction, which had the low bid of $1,149,720 plus applicable tax, as well as awarding the amount of $46,948 to Coles Associates for engineering services and project management. And also too, there you will see our budget for this project originally was $1,080,000, so there is a shortfall of $236,335. So what is happening next is the manager will be contacting the PEI Infrastructure Secretariat to approve the reallocation of funds either from the city share of the CCBF or allocating new dollars that will be coming to the city in the next fiscal.
Thank you. Thank you, Christopher. A couple of questions to start off. You're going with the lowest bid, and you feel quite confident that they will be able to fulfill, this is a very important project. We've been waiting for it a long time. Was there a rating system where staff, including yourself, our manager, and anyone else rated the bids besides the involvement of, I think you mentioned, was it Coles?
Coles
Coles
Associates, correct.
So was it their mandate to rate the bids and to look it over it? Or what involvement did senior management have in the Parks Department?
Thank you, Chair. So with regards to that, the manager and I did go through the bids briefly, or very quick. We went through them to make sure that everything was correct. We also engaged the services with Coles Associates, as they were the experts and engineers with regards to this, and they were very confident that the winning bid would be able to fulfill the items listed in the tender to complete the project to our satisfaction.
And just to follow up, do we have a timeline and time frame when the work will begin, pending approval from City Council, and when the project will be completed?
Thank you, Chair. So the project will begin as soon as the awarding has been accepted by council, and our anticipation is that the work will be completed. We had set a deadline for December 31st of this year. So once approved, we can start the work right away and hopefully have it completed, or that's the anticipation, to have it completed before the end of this year.
Thank you. Councilor Bernard?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you're right, we've been waiting for this project for at least a couple of years. It's good to see we got the okay. The question I have is, I'm not quite sure what he meant by the shortfall or the next fiscal. So the shortfall for the funding for the project comes from where?
So it comes from the CCBF, I guess it used to be called the gas tax. So this
I realize that. I'm just wondering, but there wasn't enough approved for this budget.
there wasn't enough approved for this project. So originally, this project was approved for $1,080,000. And then with the carryover, the original ask was for a certain length. We originally thought that the project was only going to be 850 feet, but it actually is 1,150 feet. So there's more shoreline that needs to be protected. So the original budget was only allocated for the 850, so we needed more. So we are looking to have permission to reallocate some funds from the city share now of projects that have not used all of that money and put it towards this project, or when the future dollars are allocated to the city for their gas tax or the CCBF fund, we would use those dollars to cover the rest of this project.
Okay, I didn't think they would allow that. So what you're saying is there's some CCBF funding left from other projects that the city would have applied for but didn't complete, and you're hoping that they'll transfer that over to this project?
Or they completed, but it wasn't, they didn't use all of their budgets. There were still dollars left over.
So do we know that that's happened? Do we have a project that there's been CCBF money left over?
My understanding is yes, that the manager has spoken to the manager of infrastructure with the city, and there is still some dollars left in this fund that can be allocated to this. But we have to have permission from the infrastructure secretary to do that.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you, Chris.
So, Mr. Chair, just to follow up on that, I think Councillor Bernard has asked repeatedly, and with CAO and the Director of Community Services here, Mr. Chair, I just want to direct it to either one of them. What do we have left in that CCBF fund? I don't think we've expended it all.
I don't have the numbers with me, but
Right.
it's correct. There should be some left from projects that
So I
haven't
th-
been completed.
And this qualifies for it, so it should be at least a phone call, a letter exchange, and so forth. Second,
Yeah, just to butt in, during the audit, did they not have $1.4 million left in CCBF for
well,
gas
that's,
tax?
that's up until the end of 2024.
Pardon me?
That's the end of 2023.
Yeah, but the 3.3 that we get this year wasn't included in that.
Yeah, so correct. We do believe that there will be funding available for it, but we do need pre-approval to go above what
Yeah.
was presented
Yeah.
to them. So that's
Right.
what we're
That's in
working
this
on at this
resolution.
point.
Yeah.
Right.
Second question, Mr. Chair, through the chair to Christopher Drummond. You say that it states here, that's in the tender, right? Completion date is 31st of December. Now, the reason I raise this issue, because there's another tender that we issued for the Eastern Gateway Big Dig project. Is there a late penalty fee in this contract? I didn't read the contract or the tender. Is there, is there not?
Through the chair to the mayor, yes, there is.
There is?
Yes.
Okay. And there's like 1 day, 2 days it's laid out?
Correct, yes,
Okay.
it was laid out in the tender document.
Okay. I'm willing to move this.
I'll second it.
Just before we move on, Councilor Tart, did you have any questions that you'd like to ask?
I do have a question. I just wanted to follow up and build off of the question that you asked, Councillor Tweel. My understanding is Coles Associates was a contributor in the RFP evaluation and tendering process. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, yes, you did.
Okay, so I guess, there's what, five proponents that bid on it, and there's, just want to make sure, that all of the internal tendering processes and checks and balances were followed, even though we had a third party helping in that evaluation, or maybe they actually did the evaluation themselves, it sounds like. I know Christopher indicated that him and the manager, he said briefly, but I'm not sure if that's what he meant, but briefly looked over that. So I would be concerned that, or just curious to know if anything, if all things were followed in the tendering process, so that this does not come back to us as an unfair evaluation to all the proponents. That's my question.
That's a very good question. I will turn it over to our acting manager. I did have the same question in terms of trying to understand the process. But before I turn it over, I believe, I understand that all the prerequisites were followed from the outside consultant's perspective, as well as our own senior management team in the Parks and Recreation Department. Mr. Drummond?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and I apologize, I did not mean to say we briefly looked at them. The manager and I did sit down and look through all of the bids that were received. We still also rely on the expertise of the engineers with Coles Associates to make sure that everything listed in the bid by J.E. Matheson Construction, that they would be able to fulfill all of the asks that we had in the tender. They were comfortable with the work that they were going to do or what they had proposed, and the manager and I were also happy with that, as well as the price for the bid that was received.
Okay. Councilor Tart, did you have a follow-up?
No, that satisfies my question. I feel that there was a fair and equitable process that occurred between all of these companies, because we do business with all of these. So I just wanted to make sure that there was a fair and equitable process that was followed, even by the third party that was involved in that decision-making point. That's it.
Thank you, Councilor Tart. Very good question. Just a final question for our acting manager. During the process of the construction, will Coles Associates be overseeing the project on the city's behalf to ensure that, the work is, the standards, the benchmarks, all of the necessary work is completed to our specifications and the specifications set out in the tender?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that is correct. Coles Associates will have a staff person assigned to this project, and our staff as well, be either our manager, myself, or park staff will also be frequently checking in on the project to see how things are. But yes, Coles Associates will also be the experts in the engineering side of it to make sure that everything is being followed correctly.
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you. Okay, the motion's on the floor. All in favor?
In favor.
Motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Just have one comment to clarify, if I may, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just to be clear, hopefully the CCBF funding will support the budget overage, but to be clear, we do need to amend the capital budget for the additional spend above and beyond what was approved in the capital budget. So just a technicality, but the motion at council will reflect approval for an increase in the capital budget to fund it initially, and then hopefully we'll be able to source some additional funding through the CCBF.
So,
Councilor Bernard?
thank you. So, Dan, just for clarity, so in other words, it'll go to council to approve extra funding in case CCBF doesn't come through, and so we can start the project. Is that correct?
Yes, and we do, whatever we spend, we have to have council approval to do that. If we're able to get some of that get funds from CCBF to fund that purchase, that's great. But we still, whatever checks we issue, to Matheson's in this case, that's the amount that we have to approve in the budget, and then hopefully we can fund it. If not through CCBF, it would be funded through long-term debt or it would be financed. But in order for the project to proceed, we have to approve the increase in the capital budget.
Right, which is what I wondered, because when I was hearing that we're going to be going back to them to see if we can use extra funds, and I wondered how we would start the project, so thanks for that.
Chair, just a point of clarification. Both of you have been around this chamber long enough that where we've increased the capital budget was part of the resolution. So that'll just automatically go to increase the capital budget, or it'll be offset by the CCBF. Yeah, it's in and out. I move the resolution. I call the question.
We voted.
Good.
Vote. It was unanimous.
Thank you.
Good project. I know we've been had this on the books for a number of years, and certainly looking forward to the completion.
But just the mayor brought up something, I just wanted clarity, maybe from Dan. So when we normally approve an increase in the capital budget, Dan, and then we get funding coming back through the CCBF, I always thought that funding for the CCBF was a different account. Does it go back onto the capital funding that you would have borrowed from, or does it stay in the CCBF funding for another project?
Yeah, so the funding comes, when the funding is received, we stick it in a holding account, and then we apply to have projects approved through the infrastructure secretariat, and then those funds kind of get allocated to the projects. The funds are shown as revenue, so we would show the asset of the shoreline protection as, the million one or two, whatever the number is, and that would continue on our books as the asset value, and then the whatever funding grant we receive would be recognized separate, but the asset continues on the books at what we paid Matheson's to put it in place.
So I'm not quite clear on it. So in other words, when we approve the extra for the capital budget to do this shoreline project, and then 2 or 3 months' time when the province agrees to up the CCBF funding from other projects, does that go into just our gas tax account, or does it go back into the capital to pay down that capital debt that we borrowed it for?
Yeah, well, we would take the funds and we would just draw them into our general account, and they would transfer from the CCBF bank account that we deposit them into, kind of as a holding. We're required to have a separate bank account for the CCBF funds that we receive until they're spent on specific projects, and we submit our our receipts and so on to the province. So they come into the CCBF bank account, and then once we execute on the project, the funds get transferred into our general account, and then out of that general account at some stage we may pay off debt or invest in other things, but it's really just the transfer of the CCBF bank account into our general account.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Okay. Motion passed. It was unanimous.
Yep.
Thank you.
Green light.
So, again, certainly looking forward to the beginning and the completion of this project. Our next item, next report, is a request to provide a partnership funding for 21 McKay Drive property under the department's Good Neighbor Fencing Policy. Again, Mr. Drummond, take it away.
Thank you, Chair. So the Parks and Recreation Department has stated here a policy, fencing policy. It's called the Good Neighbor Policy, where we will partner with a resident ownership or a homeowner or property owner that has a property that is adjacent to a recreational property like a park. And in this case, our department received an application from the homeowner, property owner at 21 McKay Drive. They had a fence that ran across their back lot that abutted onto J. Stewart McKay Park. And during Hurricane Fiona, the old fence that was there was destroyed and taken down. So they had placed a new fence at their own expense along this property line. Our policy is that we would cover 50% of the cost of a 4.5-foot chain link fence. And if the property owner decided they wanted to go with something different, as in this case, a board-on-board fence, and you'll see some pictures in this document, in this report as well, we would still only cover the cost of what a 4.5-foot chain link fence would be, which in this case, the rate was $13.01 per foot, so that's half of the rate. And the total amount being requested is $5,178.23, so that's including taxes.
Moved. No, just the resolution.
I have a question. Sure.
Resolution's on the floor. Councilor Matart.
I just have a question on the process, and this is my first time seeing a resolution like this. So obviously, you know, its monetary value is about $5,000. It appears as though the resident has erected the fence already and is looking to go through the program with the anticipation of receiving half of that value only to be approved by council. Is that correct? So in the event that council did not approve it for whatever reason, what would then happen to the homeowner who erected the fence thinking that they were getting half of that money back? It seems to be, shouldn't they be seeking approval first and then they erect the fence based on approval? It just seems a bit cart before horse. But and again, I've never seen this before, and I'm sure obviously we're not rejecting a $5,000 policy program, but it's just more of the question.
Thank you, Chair, to Councilor Matart. So this policy, it actually was in past, is only brought to the committee for approval. It actually hasn't, and any of the other fencing requests through this policy do not go to council. It's just a committee approval that it's happened.
Okay.
So in the policy, what happens is that the homeowner or property owner will submit the application. They will erect the fence first, and then our staff will go out and inspect the fence, make sure that everything is to our satisfaction, that everything looks fine. They have to also include receipts of payments that they have made, and it's our discretion if we would approve the 50% cost share with the homeowner. If we don't, then they pay the full cost. And I don't recall anywhere where we have looked and said we wouldn't do it. We just, it's like I say, a good neighbor policy where it's a benefit to us as well too, because the users of the park, you know, they could potentially go into their backyard of the property owner. It's, you know, to keep people out of that property, but also to keep people within our own parks, recreational property. So
Great.
that has been the
Thank
process
you.
before. And also too, we have allocated a certain amount of dollars in this account. And at the end of the year, if we have one or two people, it's kind of a first come, first serve. If we run out of money, in, August, September, then there's no money left for any future requests, or, we may end up having money left over at the end of the day, at the end of the budget year, and we just carry forward again to the next fiscal.
Great. That's great. Thank you, Christopher. That was really what I was looking for. I had not seen that program since I've been in council. And I thought it had to go, I thought we were passing a motion here to go to council for approval. So it seemed a bit odd that we would go seek approval before, when the fence was erected. But so you did a great job of explaining that policy program for me. So I have no further questions, and I support it moving forward. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, just through the chair to Christopher. Christopher, again, you incorporated the policy. It's right on page 13, and as what you said is all laid out there, so I appreciate that you provided that. But Christopher, just on point number 4, is it number 4? Is it only allowing for 4-foot high fences, or can we go beyond that, height-wise?
So through the chair to the mayor, so our standard fence that we would put on into a park is a 4.5-foot chain link fence. So if you wanted to put a fence up in your property, we would cover the cost of a 4.5-foot chain link fence at the city's rate that we would get.
Okay.
But if you decided to put a larger fence, a 10-foot fence, wooden fence, what have you, we would still only cover the cost of what it would be for a 4.5-foot chain link fence at the length of the property that abuts onto the park. We wouldn't do your whole property. It's just what runs along the property line of the city's recreational space.
And, Mr. Chair, the reason I bring that up, we all received a letter from President Sandy McDonald regarding the CADC parking lot, how it borders on to Joe Giz Park. I'm just asking, Mr. Chair, through you to Christopher, so could Holland College apply under this program, the Good Neighbor, what is it called? Good Neighbor fencing policy?
To my knowledge, it's, I know it says in here for residents and
Residential.
businesses to
Yeah.
apply to it. A lot of it has been like homeowners, but yes, they could
Okay.
potentially do that, but again, it would be at the cost of a 4.5-foot
Yeah.
chain link fence.
Thank you.
Yes.
Entertain a mover, seconder? Move, second?
I moved it originally.
Okay, all in favor?
In favor?
Thank you. Okay, move for adjournment. Second? Thank
you
you.
very much, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Have a great
Bye now.
afternoon.